We're getting right into the thick of things. Remember, this is Fearless Draft, so the 10 champions you saw previously in Game 1 are no longer available. And if you didn't see Game 1, well, they're right there at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, and it was a really nice game right there for OMG, able to just sort of dismantle Ultra Prime in the later stages of the game. Straight up, we're going to get the Corki first pickup right here for Ultra Prime. And I think this champion has been so incredibly strong at the moment. You can roam it around, mainly been seeing it as a bot laner. The response, though, going to be the Zyra. Now, this is one of those junglers that I think Heng has had the most nice, clean looks on, the most success with, really. And it's so strong in the meta at the moment as well.
And it's going to be a different look for Heng in this game after just witnessing him kind of run amok on the Poppy, slamming people into the wall. No apologies left for, you know, the fallen teammates of Ultra Prime, but the answer is going to be this Nidalee. Now, Bloxer, you told me that, you know, your main is Warwick. Well, confession time, my main is Nidalee, and here's the thing about Nidalee being locked in against the Zyra. If you do not punish the Zyra early on, she just outpaces you, and it's one of the most annoying and frustrating matchups to play into, because theoretically you have the burst to be able to just one-shot this plan as soon as you jump on her, but she has so many ways to really punish and counterattack you, especially if it's post level 6. She has lockdown that she can throw on top of you as soon as you commit with your empowered pounce, and she can always throw a plant and spawn it in front of your spears so that you don't even get the mark. So the fact that they're giving Junhao the tools with this Nidalee means that Ultra Prime have to really dial in the early game invade plans and stopping Heng from accelerating on this Zyra.
I think the early game plans are going to get even more impactful right here as we get to see the Smolder locked in. Starry has pulled this one out before. You could see what he was trying to do. I mean, we're assuming here is going to be in the bot lane. To be honest, I've seen Linfeng pull out things like the Smolder before. Could technically be moved around. I'd be surprised, though, because we were talking about wanting to see Linfeng on this Yone. Well, it's going to be picked away right here for Saber. Saber had a pretty quiet game previously. Had a couple of okay looks on the Talia. Wasn't really able to take over, though. And on this champion, you have to take over. You've got to get yourself to that 2-3 item point, and at that point, you can completely wreck team fights with the Fate Sealed. Can be kind of tricky to get the Yone to that point, though.
A couple bans already gone off the way in this second round of the draft phase. Gnar, a, you know, counter pick we've definitely seen from time to time against Renekton. Udyr, another top laner that is going to be taken away from Zhang and could definitely put a stranglehold on Renekton's lating phase, but, you know, the marksman hitting the table, Ashe and Vars, both gone. And this definitely puts Ultra Prime in the suspicion that they thought that this was going to be Smolder for Linfeng, and the Ezreal just could be the lock-in for Starry.
Yeah, I was, as soon as it locked in, a little bit suspicious of this being in the bottom lane. I think, to be honest, in terms of being able to just get yourself to the point at which you have enough stacks to take over as a Smolder, it is slightly easier to do so in the mid lane. Mid laners at the moment are not the big solo kill machines that they used to be. It's now bot lane and top lane, where junglers really focus, trying to look for a lot of kills, trying to get explosive plays off. Mid laners are often allowed to just sit and farm, and then you roam up to Grubs, and then you roam down to Drake. But other than that, you're kind of just chilling for the early game. Exactly what the Smolder wants to be. As I did say, though, it can be a bit tricky to play into the Yone. A bit of a risk if you do get caught out once you hit that level 6. Saber can try to punish right here. We'll see what the rest of the draft is going to be for Ultra Prime, though. The Gragas locked in here. Again, more movement abilities, more ability to bop people around, try to stop this nice, easy front to back that you would want to play through for OMG. And if this Maokai is locked in right here, that would make the team fights out of Ultra Prime so scary to play around.
And at least Ultra Prime now have non-committal engage with the Maokai ultimate, because other than that, this Yone, if he ever commits Fate Seal without using the Soul Unbound, he's into the backline and he's not getting out unless, you know, he's got some fancy, you know, Q3 flash techniques. And for Ultra Prime, it does kind of leave a lot of the engage tools on Zhang to punt unlucky member from OMG into the team with Explosive Cask, whereas OMG, their answer, locking down the Nautilus, you know, a classic tried tradition for most support players, and it gives at least one person that can face check a lot of these bushes, I should say. And for Ultra Prime, the one thing that I will say that is going to be very strong for them as well is objective control. You have saplings, you have bushwhacks from Nidalee, and even though I kind of laugh at Nidalee traps, you know, back in the day, ever since people started building Leandries and Horizon Focus as the build, actually makes her traps kind of like an empowered sapling if it had Leandries attached to it. So it is, you know, something that you have to be mindful of, and it's an effective way for Nidalee to poke you without having to actually land her spears.
That being said, though, it's not like OMG can't poke back either. Anytime there's an Ezreal, a Zyra, a Smolder, these champions can also do a lot of work in terms of straight-up poke, and you do have just about enough tankiness between a Renekton and a Nautilus to be able to step up into these choke points. You do need to be careful, though. Like you said, getting caught in a choke point by Ultra Prime would be pretty much a death sentence right here. OMG, though, I think they want to play this one out a little bit slower, get a couple more items under the belt, really unlock this Smolder. Being said, the Zyra can also be a very effective ganker early, and there are a couple lanes you can try to influence. Potentially top lane could be somewhere you want to look towards, and if not, if you can actually get a gank off onto this mid lane and slow down this Yone, that could be huge, because anytime you're trying to play a game out slowly and you've got a Yone on the other team, it's a little bit risky, right? You're giving him time to scale up to the point where he's really strong. Well, put him a little bit behind, and that's less of a worry.
And I think Saber really is the only threat that can put disruption into OMG, even though they have, you know, what we believe to be such a much more terrifying scaling backline threat than what Ultra Prime will have to offer as the game goes on. Yone is kind of your one, you know, cheat code to try and just completely neutralize something like a Smolder and a Zyra from just wrecking your day. Now, Ultra Prime, we noted at the top of the draft, once this Nidalee was locked in against the Zyra, you want to really try and decelerate this Zyra from just snowballing out of control. So far, not really able to do one of the first things that you can do, which is interrupt and stop her from spawning, you know, these plants so that she can really just get ahead of the pace with this jungle clear. So Junhao is going to have to rely on other methods. Maybe he goes for an early invade since he's starting on the bottom side of the map on this red quadrant if he wants to try and catch Heng as he's traversing towards his blue quadrant. Or the other option here, Bloxer, is for Junhao to just start driving in some oppression into one of these lanes.
Yeah, potentially that's the way that Junhao's going to want to go. I think I'd like to see some early aggression right here, especially with the way that this split has come through, the way that we've got a lane swap coming out. It does really unlock you to be able to really try to go for a big dive, big play potentially into one of these lanes. You could even try to influence onto the bottom lane. You do have enough damage between the Gragas and the Nidalee early on to be able to pick up a kill here onto Starry and Moham if you really wanted to. I don't think that's the way you really want to go for right now. Jen, just going to take a lot of damage right here. Top lane though, teleport already coming through. Hery, interesting. Okay, just decides, you know what, need to go catch my wave, but didn't want to be in that lane early on.
You know, there's a couple things that were in motion for OMG, and I thought this is what the play was actually going to be. The fact that Jung got chunked out so heavily by the 2v1, Hery already stopped mid lane, and then had the collapse on through to play potentially towards bot lane. But the fact that he just goes to collect the top side of the map shows to me that once they saw that RosieLove had backed off and left Corki to his lonesome, that a 3v2 dive against potentially a Maokai showing up on that timer would have probably been a little scarier than they wanted to opt in for. And this Renekton does need to get some gold at some point. He can't just continue to share XP and gold with every other lanes. Now, Heng might try to put some pressure down here, but he's just going to make sure that Jung and RosieLove don't get a chance to move, and Heng will have full control of this bottom side river.
Yeah, there's very much a full split on the map right now. Junhao fully in control of this top side. It's so tricky, though, to really try to push the advantage of this split, because these champions are very good at being resistant to dives. Renekton dives are always going to be very tricky. Like you said, having a Maokai in the area makes a dive onto the bot lane so much harder as well. And it means that despite the fact, you've managed to get yourself into this lane swap split situation, there's not really too much to really use it for. You're not really able to push that advantage, at least for now. The Grubs will spawn soon, and the Drake as well. And that could be a way to try to play this one out.
Yeah, and the one thing that Ultra Prime will have as a, you know, potential bonus for them if they want to fight for these grubs is normally at that 6-minute timer, both of your top laners, if this were a normal laning phase situation, they would be level 6, and Renekton level 6, always such a classic to really not want to underestimate just the power of that Dominus giving you so many base stats and just makes fighting for grubs so much harder. I don't think that's going to happen this time around, given the fact that Hery had to share XP in the mid lane and was late towards the top lane on that first couple of waves.
And even if he does arrive, you're not going to be arriving at a high health bar, constantly getting poked out right here by Wako. More... Ooh, hang on. RosieLove takes a huge chunk there, gets ignited, should be able to get away, but still, it's going to be at least forced back underneath the tower.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Bloxer, but Maokai Gragas as a duo lane is pretty hard to fight into as long as you have a ranged champion, and they're doing the best that they can, and they have ways that they can try and interact by collecting minions with that cask, but now that the wave has been pushed a little too far up, and it's still pushing into OMG, means that Ultra Prime now in a difficult spot where Starry's going to get a lot of solo XP. Moham is already backed off, and it's really hard for Ultra Prime to step up and try and correct this wave because Heng is already back on this side of the map. So now, I'm curious here, Bloxer, if OMG don't even want to necessarily correct this wave and just use the pressure, and as I speak to it, they already got to the point. Yep. They're using that pressure to get to that dragon.
Go straight towards the Drake. It's an Infernal. Why not? You'd be giving up some free stats to not just be able to take this one. And Zyra is one of the better champions at being able to just take that one completely solo in a reasonable amount of time early on, using those plants very effectively. As you can see right here, doesn't even lose particularly much health to it. Heng is going to be able to pick that one up for the team. Helps towards the feats as well, considering we've got no kills and not too much pressure onto towers at the moment. It is going to be very important to be able to pick up as many of these objectives. That being said, let's have a fight now potentially around these grubs.
Junhao not going to underestimate OMG's ability to contest with these grubs. He already smited the first one, so Heng gets the smite on the second one, and then everyone backs off from Ultra Prime, so it is 2 grubs to OMG, 1 to Ultra Prime. They did not want to disrespect the potential that Hery not only had TP, but also was level 6, and even though didn't have a chance to buy items, you still just don't want to mess with a crocodile coming at your face with Dominus in his back pocket. A nice dodge there from Saber.
Saber
potential engage there from Moham.
I think even if you manage to actually land that hook, it's a decent chunk of damage potentially onto Saber, but I really don't think that Linfeng right now has the damage to be able to actually pick up that kill. But so far in this lane has been doing pretty well for himself, hasn't really been able to get too much of an individual CS advantage, but still has been able to just sit and farm, not been under too much threat. And Linfeng, we keep talking about it, but really is such a big Yone player, and I think that's probably a very big boon in a matchup like this, where it can be a little bit tricky potentially to play out, knowing your opponent's champion so well. Early on, obviously, you're going to be fine, just going to be able to poke down, but at the point at which Saber has that level 6, the Fate Sealed is a great way to get on top of this champion, and he's still got the flash up, clearly hasn't been put under too much threat right now, and in fact, it's making Saber's life pretty miserable so far.
And meanwhile, just off of the pressure that Linfeng is able to award Heng thanks to this range into Yone matchup early on, even though Heng is not able to deny those Raptors away from Junhao, the fact that he's keeping tabs on where this Nidalee is going to be just puts a damper on where Junhao can really get aggressive and try and, you know, get things rolling and snowballing for Ultra Prime. Just trying to remind people at home, you know, Nidalee is not necessarily on a timer, at least, you know, thanks to the buffs to her Primal Surge she got so many patches ago last year. It does make her at least better in the utility role. She can always just give a nasty attack speed steroid to, you know, not 1 but 2 reliable carries in this Corki and the Yone, but it just does make her feel a little sheepish when it comes to the power that Zyra will be at if you do not put her into the ground.
Exactly. If you are, as your best trait in the later stages of the game, an attack speed buff, that's not exactly the best look, right? You are going to be a lot more useful as the Zyra later on. I think going to get chased a little bit right here. I don't think RosieLove is actually going to pull the trigger on trying to go in, and in fact, Linfeng feels more than happy enough to keep on stepping up. But it does mean that Junhao does need to get things going at some point early on if he doesn't want to fall behind. And Italy that's even just in a okay spot, but not particularly ahead, can still fall prey a little bit to not feeling like you're providing too much real utility to your team, but, you know, beyond that attack speed steroid and those spears, and beyond that, we've been talking about how Junhao looks like a much different player from an ahead position. When he's in a good spot, really can take over the map, doesn't feel so much pressure to have to keep pushing forwards.
Ooh.
Hang on,
Oh, this is such great tracking,
knows.
but even
Good.
greater sense from Wako to realize, hey, wait a minute. I just saw Moham and Heng walk into our top jungle thanks to that control ward on the top side river. I wonder where they could be. And definitely dissuades a potential pick that might have given OMG a nice lead to start working with and really put, you know, restrain on Ultra Prime and that extra pressure for them to say, hey, we have to really get things rolling. But objectives are spawning in the next 30 seconds and a minute respectively for the second rotation of Grubs and the second dragon of the game. OMG really have the pick of the litter since they have push in pretty much every single lane. I imagine that Grubs will be the focus here, and I'm curious if Ultra Prime will find a way to contest.
Yeah, if they do, they don't have a teleport out of Jiang, so he's not going to be able to come and join the rest of the team. Hery, though, could come and join up. There could be a 5v4 potentially end up happening. Right now, OMG, they've got the fast track towards these objectives, and it feels like Ultra Prime kind of in no man's land because they've got Linfeng sat beneath them. They aren't really able to just set themselves up in a good position right now. They're at least going to have to walk into this one late.
Mohammed's, or I should say RosieLove, throws out the ultimate for the engage, but here comes the counterattack, and this is what happens when you walk into Zyra plants and a Stranglethorn. You just get blown up, and the rest of OMG completely punish Ultra Prime. Yeah, they were able to net one grub for themselves, but it's still 4-2 and a kill to top it. And with the mid wave pushing in, they're going to get a lot of damage onto this mid turret.
Yeah, the fact that they're able to pick up a couple more of those grubs as well. Unfortunately, they're not able to get all three. Would have been a nice move towards those feats, but they're going to be more than happy with what they get on the back end of that play. A couple things to note about that one. I really liked the way that Moham just stepped up. It's the great tech that you have with the Nautilus into the Maokai, is you just step up, hit your shot. Hang on. Starry should be fine. Has flash, has barrier, has
Arcane
Ezreal
Shift might
things.
be off cooldown. Oh, it's only 4 seconds.
There he is. He just walks in. He actually just walks out. That's really... the fact that Wako didn't even want to blow anything either, knew that it was very unlikely Starry was actually going to die there. Very funny to just watch an Ezreal walk away. But no, as we look back at this fight, I love that Wako just goes straight in. It's exactly what you want to do in this play. And yeah, like you said, you're stepping into Zyra plants. You're stepping into both a Ezreal and a Smolder. That doesn't end well for you in real any situation. What you want as Ultra Prime is to have your setup first and force OMG to walk into you. They're going to be okay at being able to do so, but it will still put you in a much better position. But because of the pushing lanes we were highlighting before, it meant that OMG had that fast track available to them, and it made that play a heck of a lot easier. Right now, though, they're going to look for a potential dive. RosieLove is in the area, though.
Tries to spot out OMG's dive before it can really happen, but Saber might still be in trouble as RosieLove, all it can do is just W one target where the Stranglethorns locks down Saber, gets the Fate Seal, but doesn't get a chance to finish the channel because he gets denied and deleted off the map. But here comes the counterattack. Ultra Prime trying to punish the overextension from OMG. That's 2 kills going over to Wako. That's 3 total for Ultra Prime as the turret ramped up a lot faster than OMG were bargaining for, and it's just a great collapse from Ultra Prime.
And Ultra Prime are going to get even more out of this. OMG bring Hery up to that top lane play, and it means they're going to lose a ton of XP and gold over to Jiang in this bot lane as well. What a play on the counter that was. It always felt like a little bit of an odd dive. Driving into a Maokai, into a Yone, not particularly easy. You do at least get that initial kill onto Saber, but the counter is here from Ultra Prime. I like how quickly they're able to get onto this one, and the Nature's Grasp makes this dive so tricky. The disengage almost impossible, and you can see just the tower dealing so much damage, and then you add Corki damage on top of that. It felt like a very hard fight for OMG to have won, and that's something we have seen from OMG, right? Where they go over aggressive, try to push their leads just a little bit too hard, a little bit too far, and end up making slight mistakes, questionable decisions, let's say.
And you could see that there is at least some honest efforts in trying to deny as many bodies dropping in that turret dive. Hery trying to flash in front of that Maokai ultimate to block for Heng. Unfortunately, his plants had spawned and drew aggro onto the collapsing members of Ultra Prime, so he was the first victim to fall to the ramping turret shots, and The rest of the frontline members fell very quickly. Linfeng was the only survivor of the casualty on that top dive. And Ultra Prime now have the map to be able to secure the second dragon for themselves, but maybe a pick here from OMG. RosieLove could get caught here. No flash available. A couple more auto attacks and a Mystic Shot is enough to do it. The Stranglethorns is what secures the dead tree in the bottom red quadrant, and Ultra Prime now going to have a chance to see if they can find a way to defend this tier 1 turret from falling.
That was a lot of abilities used right there to be able to pick up a kill onto the support. Still, there isn't really any big objective spawning. I'm getting jumped, though. He's just dead.
Yeah, good collapse there from Saber and Junhao. Just a sixth sense to be able to wait for Zyra, thinking that Heng was safe in that situation, but just a quick roam up from this Yone. And this is where OMG... Once again, you called it out earlier, Bloxer. They have to be a little careful about how eager they're getting in trying to push this lead because, remember, this is a composition that comes online much later. They don't necessarily have to be this aggressive into a composition that is just coming online with a couple of their champions and their one-item spikes.
Yeah, I like the proactivity in trying to push your lead, but you don't have to overforce it. They are going super deep, pushing behind turrets, into choke points, exactly the sort of situations in which Ultra Prime's composition is great, and exactly as you mentioned. The fact that Ultra Prime's composition is really coming online right now, in fact Saber just was able to complete that Bork, huge power spike for this Yone, means that this is a situation in which you really do just want to allow the game to happen to you a little bit for OMG. Don't get bullied around, don't get pushed in constantly, but you don't have to overforce right now, not for a little while. The Herald is going to be spawning up in a couple of seconds time. We've got a while until Atakan and the next Drake. I wouldn't mind OMG just leaving this Herald and not trying for a full fight around it. If they do try for a full fight, they need to get there first, set themselves up for success initially. Saber, yeah, with the Bork, more than happy to keep on stepping up, even in that 2v1, and buying a lot of space for his team to be able to start this Herald.
Yeah, and the fact that OMG were not able to get to this pit first, they don't get a chance to set up those plants for Heng, which is where a lot of the difficulty comes for Ultra Prime to try and contest them, but the fact that they have Prio, they're the first ones in there. Rift Herald is theirs to claim. OMG going to try to use this time to see if they can get this tier 1 turret. It should be possible. However, the counter engage from RosieLove puts a stop to their tracks, and Heng had to throw down the Stranglethorns just in fear of Ultra Prime being able to collapse and get a couple more picks there.
Yeah, stepping up. Potentially was trying to look for a cask to split these members. There are quite a lot of low health members, and with the Herald charging into the mid lane, this could turn into a fight. There it is!
Flash cask and Heng, no flash. That's an easy pick for Ultra Prime. Well sought out by the top laner of Ultra Prime. They're going to continue the charge. There's the Fate Seal that locks down the Crocodile for another pick too. And Ultra Prime, if they can continue racking up picks like these, this is still a winnable game for them before OMG get to the point that they outscale them.
Ultra Prime's composition has come online, and they have recognized that well. I really do question the decision-making out of OMG to try to step up to save this turret, knowing that Jiang is in the area. The cask was always going to come out. Starry at least is able to Arcane Shift over onto the other side of it, but unfortunately the same cannot be said for poor Zyra. Hery going down on this one too, and it's just people stepping up way too far, getting way too close to a team composition that's online and has great tower dive potential in this situation. And now that's a decent little gold lead, about 1,000 for Ultra Prime, and with the mid lane turret down, they've got a lot more space on the map to really try to play around. Minute until the next Drake, minute 50 until we have Atakan spawning. This is a crucial time in this matchup, especially for Ultra Prime.
They lead the charge here, and it might be a successful dive here. Linfeng's got to be careful, though. It does not want to drop any deaths this early on, and the punish from Saber with the Q3 finds the baby dragon. OMG. Now have to be careful about how much more they're going to drop here, because if any members were to die now, the death timers are long enough where it's going to be a little stagger for them to redeploy and successfully contest this upcoming dragon, which then could bleed into the Otacon setup as well.
Exactly, and dying... Losing your flash? Oh, hang on. Moham,
potential re-engage from Moham. Oh, look at the damage from Starry. True Shot Barrage layered right on top of the CC. It's a 1-for-1 trade, but Moham going down for Saber, I think that's something that OMG will take any day of the week, and it does put a stop to Ultra Prime's momentum for now.
And this is now back and forth where it's not really worth it to give the life of your mid laner for a quick little support kill. I mean, sure, having Moham dead at the beginning of the Drake spawning is nice, but the supports are pretty low level right now. Their death timers are incredibly short, quite a lot longer for the mid laners. Saber not going to be up for a while, might have to blow the teleport if he wants to get involved in any potential plays that could be happening. For right now, Ultra Prime, they've got themselves the fast track towards this Drake. If they're able to pick it up, it would put them at 2-1. Nobody on soul point yet. It's been a relatively even early game up until the last couple of minutes. With Ultra Prime grabbing this Drake, Atakan 15 seconds away from spawning. More than enough time to be able to take this Drake and get up towards that lane. But do you really want to start this one up immediately? I think that would be incredibly risky out of OMG. I think both of these teams are going to have a little bit of a struggle with actually taking the Atakan here.
Yeah, especially if Heng is not set up to start deploying those plants. You know, one of the things that you really want to capitalize on when you are playing Zyra jungle is to get, before a major objective spawns, get there, you know, a solid 15 seconds so you can start passively spawning your plants, as well as throwing down the active plants that you get from your W, so that you have so many to empower with your Stranglethorns to really burn down objectives. The fact that Heng is not necessarily there, I don't think that OMG really want to pull Ultra Prime or really want to just try and burn the objective. They'll have to play for just a turn play where they're saying, hey, you better stop us from doing this objective, and then you look for the counterattack punish by pulling them in and use your counter engage measures to really capitalize on Ultra Prime overextending.
I think the key thing for that, though, is you really don't want to start it up first, because Atakan hurts. He hits like a truck. Oh no, this could be a big pick.
Flash Death Charge and the flash follow-up from Hery. This Cougar is going down. That's a big shutdown going over to the pockets of Starry. And no jungle available, even though Atakan hurts. This should be enough for OMG to at least signal the start of the Atakan, but Ultra Prime going to try to answer back. Saber, Fate Sealed, but great stasis from Heng. Blocks out the Fate Sealed, and now it's up to Jung to find another engage with that explosive cast, but everyone from OMG backs up and away from the riverside. No Atakan will be taken anytime soon, but at least for now, OMG can be thankful that they took that one shutdown off the big kitty cat.
Crucial to Atakan not being picked up right here for OMG is the fact that there was a mid-wave being pushed in, and Linfeng had to go and pick that one up. It meant that they weren't actually in the 5v4 advantage that you would expect because of the pick onto Junhao. And yeah, without jungler, it is certainly harder to stop a team taking Atakan, but it still works out just fine. The golden is great, really well done, but that is now broken for a while. Heng is now going to be under great threat on these next couple of plays. You need to be careful as this Zyra that you don't just get taken out on the next available play before you have that Zhonya's available to you.
I think the saving grace for OMG is just, even though they're not able to get any immediate objectives off of it, we have to remind ourselves and all the audience at home, it's just all about the scaling, trying to make sure that you can get Smolder online to these stacks. I didn't get a chance to see how many he was at. Oh, wait, it's on the middle right. I forgot that they have that counter for us. This is really nice. And he's already at it, 228. So Smolder's online here, Bloxer.
He really is going to be getting to the point where the executes not just are available, but are beginning to really hurt. And if you can protect Linfeng, that's going to be the key to success. Pretty tricky in this composition. Ultra Prime have got a lot that they can use as threat onto this relatively immobile little Smolder. But if you can protect him, if you can get enough space to just be able to sit and hit, this champion does so much damage. Hery getting chased away from this tier 2 tower right now. I love this play from Ultra Prime. Just decide, snap play, go pick yourself up a ton of gold. And at this point, OMG, they're still sort of just stood around the Atakan, thinking about taking it, but not really being able to do so. We've actually been here long enough that the next Drake's going to be spawning in a minute and a half's time. Remember, we were thinking about Drake when Atakan first spawned. Ultra Prime, they're going to start it up here, but I really don't know if they can actually finish it off.
I mean, they're trying to force it because they saw Heng clearing the minion wave mid, but they have to be careful. This is Smolder at his best. He has the execute available, and Saber already knows he needs to get the hell out of there. Fate Sealed already to disengage, but he goes back in for Starry, looking for that Q3 flash, forcing Starry's own flash to respawn. But Ultra Prime, they've run out of engage tools. They have to be playing on the retreat. And now OMG, they're playing for this Atakan, but Linfeng is chunked to below almost 80% of his HP, so he has to be very, very careful. Still has the flash, but this sapling is going to push him out of the tri-bush, and the Otacon is still at 4k HP, and Junhao is in range to try and smite steal this away. 2600, and it regens, and I think that's what OMG want. Just let it reset. They still have an overall health advantage, but they the flash body slam onto Hery, and he goes down thanks to the burn of Junhao's Liandry's Torment, and I think that's enough for OMG to realize that this fight is probably lost, but the Otacon resets once again. Maybe if Heng can be a hero, but it's gonna be so hard because he has no flash. He would have to walk up and just, you know, pray for his life that he's able to smite steal it away, but I don't think anyone from Ultra Prime is gonna let that happen.
And Feng has actually reset and is just walking back into this one. Is going to rejoin with some extra damage in his back pocket and a full health bar here. Close.
Oh, the explosive cast doesn't put it back. Heng, does he secure it? Oh, it's a little too early. It goes over to the hands of Junhao. Now OMG have to run for the hills. But Junhao has the power of that GA, so he has full confidence to just try and jump in and clear as many kills as he can. But Linfeng will clear one of the GAs thanks to the power of the execute. He's just going to tangle with Wako, cakes him out. Look at Linfeng popping off on that baby dragon. He's not a baby anymore. But here comes Zhang. Body slams him into the tower, but he still lives thanks to the power of the grass. Procky, oh, he stepped on a trap. No. Oh, Linfeng, oh no, it was going so well.
I don't think I've ever seen someone actually die to a niddly trap before.
It's a rare occurrence, but it's so funny when it happens.
It's like the smoke screen from Graves and Ultra Prime. Now they smell blood in the water. They are not going to stop. They turn straight onto the Baron. There's going to be absolutely no response whatsoever out of OMG. And Ultra Prime, they had a good early game, but this has been an excellent mid game so far. We'll have a look back at this one, and like you said, the attempt is so close, but the second that you do actually pick yourself up the Otacon, this is huge. You can just jump forwards. Now, I do question a little bit Ultra Prime going forwards quite this hard. You're very low, you're up against a Smolder, and you are still giving 200 gold over to the Smolder every time you die. This is not an insignificant amount of gold that Linfeng gets to pick up off of these 3 kills. The fact he dies here isn't ideal either, but still, like, I think Linfeng's going to be happy enough with the fact that he gets all of those kills, quite a lot of gold. This is devastating, though.
Oh. The thing I'm just realizing now is he had autoed it. So shouldn't he have known that it was there?
He tried to step around it. He misjudged how big the hitbox is. You can see from his character movement, he's trying to step around it, and he accidentally gets a little bit too close.
A comedy of errors from the last few seconds of that replay sequence, but Ultra Prime reaped the benefits, taking that Baron right off the back of Linfeng's death, and the fact that Heng was still off the map. They get the 3rd dragon for themselves as well, and now they're making the siege happen. RosieLove, a good night, RosieLove. Maybe, you know, a sacrifice worthy and won't be in vain, as it gives Ultra Prime the window to siege onto that tier 2 turret, you know. Sometimes supports just gotta die, you know, and just make sure that the rest, the team that can get something done, you know.
And I don't think RosieLove would have particularly liked dying in that situation, but at the same time, not the end of the world. You do get that tier 2 turret. And looking at the overall state of the game, like you said, everything coming up at the moment. Ultra Prime having a great time of it at this point. 5-0-4. For Wako specifically is huge. Not being able to kill a Corki at any point means that he's just sitting there, landing rockets, being annoying the entire game. And it feels like right now, Ultra Prime are in a great position to be able to win this one out. They are so strong. They're at the absolute peak of their power spike on the majority of these champions. 2 and a bit items right now onto the Yone. Once that's 3, this is the peak power that Ultra Prime are going to get for themselves in this game. They do have to be careful, though, to not allow this game to go on too long. Linfeng has shown some great comeback performances in the past, not necessarily on the Smolder, but if any champion is going to allow you to do so, it would be this one. For the minute, Ultra Prime, they're going to try push through the top lane. They haven't really got synced up waves, they're just heading to one lane at a time to take down the towers.
Yeah, if we harken back to any Smolder performances, that JDG game that OMG had could have been a turnaround from OMG had the damage thresholds had been met on the last couple of kills Linfeng was looking for in what looked like was going to be an unofficial quadra kill. But, you know, maybe this time around, now that Linfeng has way more stacks racked up for themselves, definitely a little bit more time and grace to continue building up this execute threshold for this little dragon. OMG definitely not completely out of this game. It is a pretty massive gold lead, almost 7,000 for the point of Ultra Prime, but as you said, there's still ways for OMG to play around, and as long as they are protecting their backline and Saber is not able to find the flank, or Zhang is not able to punt certain members into their own team, front to back is playable for OMG.
It really is. They need to try to keep it front to back, I think. I think beyond playable, it's the preferable way for this to happen. But like you said, it's so tricky to be able to actually keep your front line ahead of you up against so many champions that have different ways of moving you about, of stunning you, of stopping all of the things that OMG want to have happen actually coming to fruition. Right now, though, things have stalled out just a little bit. This is something we've been seeing from a lot of our 0-2 teams. Good ability to get leads, not necessarily the knowledge on how to be able to close this one out. For the minute, not the end of the world. I think they can wait pretty comfortably for the next 2 minutes to get themselves a Baron and use that to be able to help push, or at least get a team fight going to be able to get a couple kills and then potentially try to push onto the base. But there really isn't too much to be done at the moment for Ultra Prime, and every second that you are sat waiting for objective to spawn, you are giving more and more time over to the Smolder to stack up, more gold over to OMG as a whole to get closer to those item breakpoints and get themselves into a position where they can come back in this game.
Yeah, that number is just getting bigger and bigger when it comes to Linfeng's Smolder stacks, and the bigger that number, more terrifying things are going to get for Ultra Prime. Obviously, they are trying to wait for objectives before they can really set up and force OMG to play into them and try and get that punish down. Zhang actually has found Linfeng, but he's got friends on the other side of this big gap wall. Moham, can he get a chance to try and collapse on top of him? He was trying to teleport out. You saw that he was kind of pincered there, but no chance as the CC chain comes in through.
They catch him.
Oh,
they
this
get
could
him.
be the domino theory once again. As soon as one piece falls, the rest of Ultra Prime try to collapse and bail out their members, but Saber does get saved thanks to the power of the heal. And the rest of Ultra Prime able to save the remaining members here, but it's still a 4v5. Moham was chunked in the exchange, but he can always redeploy back on the map. But now they turn, seeing Hery was isolated from the rest of his team. Maybe it's a chance to find one back as Linfeng gets the execute on RosieLove. And the numbers are dwindling here, and it makes the volatility even higher for both of these teams.
Yeah, none of the big front line that you really need to play these fights out for Ultra Prime are available, but the damage carries are still up. You can see Saber head straight on over to the Drake, just going to try to pick this one up by himself. Bait in OMG potentially to a fight they can't win. Instead, lots of pings going on around the Baron. I don't think OMG are actually going to start this one up, but they are going to take this opportunity to at least clear out a little bit of vision, make this Baron area a slightly safer place to be hanging around. Oh, this is so risky right now. I held my breath there. It felt like that play top lane, almost, if Saber dies, is the turnaround that OMG needed. That's the shutdown, a big amount of gold, all of a sudden that turns into a Baron. Super lucky that Saber's able to survive, but you have to blow the flash and the phase seal to be able to get away. A couple of key ultis expended as well. Those will be back up for the next time we start these fights, though. OMG, they're on the cusp of being able to pull this one back. Ultra Prime, they need to be really careful to keep this aggression going, keep this advantage up for themselves, otherwise they're going to find themselves in a bit of a comeback situation.
Yeah, the longer this game goes, the more terrifying the Smolders become. And I know we keep harping on about it, but it's the only way to properly illustrate. Yeah, that's just the reality that Ultra Prime have to deal with. And, the fact that they have been in a situation before where they had this massive lead and then were not able to close it out and just, made one critical mistake. When it's late enough into the game, unfortunately, all of the good deeds you've done get immediately punished just because of how long death timers are at this stage in the game.
Yeah, losing a couple of members when you're level 17, 18 is devastating. They're just gone for an age. OMG, they know this. They are setting themselves up to try to at least have an ability to walk in right here to the Baron pit. It's going to be very, very tricky for themselves. But we have seen Ultra Prime put themselves in good positions in game before, not necessarily be able to close those ones out. I would love to see them be able to, you know, finish this one. Be able to send us to 1-1, get at least 4 games today. They're in a good position to do so. Start up the Baron. Now, this is a risk. They don't necessarily know OMG. They have an idea that something's going on, but they are struggling to actually get vision in the pit.
Yeah, they've already used the True Shot Barrage to poke out for the first time. The Explosive Cast is just going to buy some time. Starry tries to get some vision, but it is secured cleanly by Ultra Prime. And well done by them to not really give OMG a chance to contest, let alone even see what the hell was going on in that Baron pit. And now the Baron is on their side. It gives them, once again, a reliable way to start pushing onto these inhibitor towers if they ever get an advantageous pick. The problem is, even with Baron minions, it might not be enough depending on how well OMG can clear these waves at this stage in the game.
Yeah, the wave clear is very strong at the moment for OMG, and the push onto towers, while strong when you can actually start to hit them, pretty short-ranged at the moment for Ultra Prime. You're not really going to be able to hit them very easily. That's why they've had to wait so long, stall this game out so long to get to the point at which Baron is up and available. At least they are able to pick it up. Having that stolen away would have been devastating. Now, like you said, they really need to push that advantage. I'd like to see them also work through multiple lanes. We saw previously, they sort of just pushed through one lane, took the tower, pushed through another lane, take the tower. If they can sync up these waves, get themselves into a good spot to have at least 2 waves going, if not 3, that would make things a heck of a lot easier. Yeah, those spears kind of hurt. Just a little bit.
Yeah. You know, that's the power of Horizon Focus. You know, in most other builds, Nidalee Spears, probably you can shrug them off, but if they hit a squishy target at that range, yeah, you're going to have to respect it. And for OMG, now just trying to rely on the raw strength of their backliners and trying to deal with these waves. Hery actually managing the mid wave and just stepping up and matching Saber's push for blow at the moment. So far, OMG are doing a decent job of holding the line here, but Wako gets one moment to push up into this inhibitor tower, and it's ripped to shreds, and now this inhibitor is exposed, and this is the first pieces for Ultra Prime to start trying to close out this game. Moham taking so much damage off the back of a Q3 plus a spear from Junhao.
Pushing through multiple lanes has made it a little bit easier for Ultra Prime to actually be able to get close enough to these towers to hit them, and now it feels like OMG, they're going to have to put a last stand on. What can they do?
You can see that Jiang was angling for a cast, which already prompted the flash from Starry. Did not want to get caught and potentially lose the game for OMG. Dominus popped by Hery just to absorb a lot of the damage that was coming in with the poke. There's the cast. John punts in Moham. That's the first kill. Stranglethorns doesn't really do much as Saber finds Linfeng, and no smolder means no worries for the rest of Ultra Prime's days, at least in this second game, because the rest of the threats of OMG have been perfectly neutralized. Heng is doing the best that he can, but it's not going to be enough. Ultra Prime strike back in game 2.
And we have got a series on our hands. Ultra Prime, OMG, 1-1. I love that from Ultra Prime. It was slow. They had to take it slow. They really couldn't push without the Baron available to them, but they knew that. They were able to secure that Baron for themselves, and they were also able to get the soul too, and overall, it was just a really well-executed game from them, pretty much from the very beginning. It didn't really feel like OMG were in a great spot beyond the first 5-6 minutes of the game.
Sure. And you know, when we harkened back to a lot of the concerns that we had about the type of composition Ultra Prime drafted, we said that, hey, once your one item spike, you know, comes around, you really need to start accelerating the pace of the game, because if you just let this game go super late without any real pressure on the map, whether it's through dragon stacking or just being able to secure Baron or Otacon and just put, you know, OMG on the back foot, then they're the ones that are going to be able to push first into these objectives, get that objective setup that makes fighting into Zyra so difficult. But Ultra Prime really just capitalizing. I think, you know, obviously it was great play by them, but also I think just a little bit of over-aggression from OMG, getting, you know, a little excited about some of the early wins they were finding, and then just kind of gift wrapping Junhao back into the game on the Nidalee, where he and Saber could really start running the map.
Yeah, because at the very beginning of the game, it was okay for OMG. They'd actually put themselves in an okay spot in the game, but like we were calling out, a little bit too aggressive here, a little bit too aggressive there, and occasionally they would step way too far forwards, and then multiple members go down, and all of a sudden, from your decent place in this game, you are behind, and they never really got back ahead. They managed to stall the game out, and that was okay, but you couldn't really play into this composition in the way they were really looking to. And I think a big part of that was Saber on this Yone, was just able to take up so much space from the opponents, able to get into the back line so effectively multiple times, and made it so that Linfeng was never able to just sit and hit. Starry too, constantly having to run for his life.
Yeah, and to be honest, if I'm not mistaken, looking through Saber's past games, I think this is the first time I've really seen him take such dominant control and be such a dominant force to be reckoned with in the games from Ultra Prime this split so far, because the one game that they were able to win, or the other couple of games that they had leads in and unfortunately chucked away for themselves, it was off the back of RosieLove and Junhao controlling the game. But this was one of the times where Saber and Junhao really managed to sync up and find a lot of that mid-game strength and capitalizing on whether it was over-eagerness from OMG or just finding really good picks. And the fact that Wako gets to have a very quiet but still presence-full game, if that's even a word, on the Corki means that like Starry and Linfeng in the previous game, they just waited for their turn to wake up with their own item spikes and let the team kind of give them the keys to the kingdom to put in the damage afterwards.
Yeah, I think that was something I was also very much watching throughout the game, was the way that Wako was there the whole time, dealing tons and tons of damage. You saw it in that damage graph at the end of the game. Didn't end up dying as well. Was able to survive through the entire game, but was never that big, flashy Corki, 1v1s, 1v2s. Was never really about that. Just played one of the most solid, well-executed games of Corki I think I've seen in a very long time. Really impressive to see. Might not necessarily get all of the glory, although, never know, with no deaths, it is a very impressive-looking stat line.
Sure.
Could well be in the running for the MVP. I think, in my money, might well be the MVP because of just how consistent he was throughout the entire game. There was no point in that game in which I was like, he has not been useful in this fight. From top to bottom, a really nice performance.
Yeah. Honestly, Bloxer, kind of hard to beat that argument, I'm not going to lie. And as we look forward into Game 3 while we're waiting for the player of the game to be decided by the LPL broadcast, I think a couple things that I want to push forward for both teams, starting with Ultra Prime. One, really great to see that Saber has now shown himself to be a reliable carry threat on certain types of champions here, because I'm not gonna lie, it felt like this was really just the Junhao and RosieLove show, and if those two weren't getting things off the ground for them, then it seemed like things for Ultra Prime were kind of doomed. But if Saber can put out performances like this, and those three are absorbing a lot of the attention just so that Wako can be that consistent carry, then that's a good structure and foundation for Ultra Prime to be building upon. Flip side for OMG, obviously, we saw a lot of things working well for them in Game 1 kind of not go as well in this second game, where, yes, they're coordinated and well synced, but, when they're over-eager, that's where the punishes, start coming through. And even though they were trying to be patient on the item wake-ups, and you could see that Linfeng was trying to do his best to be as, powerful of a late-game threat as possible, I just feel like it's so hard to play for when you don't have many reliable ways to break open a fight if the field is super open and you have so many angles to choose from as a diving threat from the side of Ultra Prime.
Yeah, there's now multiple series in a row where I think OMG look much better for my money on early game focused compositions that they can really team fight with quickly.
Yeah.
I don't think that these late game scaling compositions really work for them. I think stylistically they need to index far harder into going, we're going to win early, we're going to win hard, we're going to try to win through Liam, Starry, someone there. Let's try play this game out as quickly as possible, because if they don't, if they try to go later and later, it just doesn't feel like it's working.
Yeah, it almost just seems like the front line that they drafted for late game composition isn't just sufficient to be quite honest. You know, Renekton can only do so much, you know, just at that point be a meat shield and, you know, stun the first person that they see. Nautilus too, you have a lot of great CC, but it's only really on one target reliably, especially if the field is super open. And as you call it, a Bloxer, you know, consistency, still something that you can, you know, give merit to. Wako with the MVP of that game too. Deathless on the Corki. You know, the only time he did die, he had an Otacon GA, so, you know, he was able to bypass that one little play there. But yeah, for OMG, I expect going forward into this Game 3 Bloxer that we're going to probably see a return to some type of fighting jungler or some type of jungler from Heng that allows him to really dictate the pace of the game. Not to say that Zyra can't do that, but I feel like it really does change how far forward you can go, because if you're face checking or frontlining as a Zyra, something has gone very wrong, and I think that was just a big punish that Ultra Prime took advantage of.
Exactly. I think for all the way that you can really tell Heng wants to play, give him the sort of champion that can step up. We've seen how good the Viego is. Something as well, I don't know, even something like the Maokai that we got to see in this game could have been better right there. There's still things like the Jarvan available, Junhao, those kinds of pickups, anything that you can just go in on as hard as possible. It will just be a little bit easier for OMG to play the game out.
Well, you know, as long as Heng doesn't give us the Maokai that was in the Wavo series, you know, I'll be fine with a tank champion, of course, you know, if it does empower him to step forward for the team. We're going to be taking a short break. When we come back, Game 3.